Hey everybody, it is Patty Wonder, director of Team Wonder Bar. So welcome. I'll give everybody just a second to find me and hop on. Since this wasn't kind of announced, it's probably a surprise. When you're hopping on, can you please say hello? Hey, Michelle. I see Michelle's name. Hey, Lindsay. Becky, my girl, Becky. Hello. Hello, hello. Hi, Pam. I'm going to end up posting this to YouTube, and it'll be me being one of those annoying people that goes live and says hi to every single person. You may or may not regret that, Michelle. Aw, my Annette Lang is here. Hello, my Annette Lang. Hello, Kaylin. Let's just take one more minute and get through this. I practiced this last night and I couldn't get through it without tears. So I have tissues ready, and I thought I'd be good. You never know, I might be good now that I'm on camera. You never know. But I am somebody that wears my emotion on my sleeve, so we'll see what happens. Hey, Cindy. Taylor, Dr. Pepper, and crafting. That sounds like the perfect weekend. Hi, American hubby. Aw, Cindy Walker, I love you too, girl. Okay. It is 1:02 p.m. on Saturday here in New Zealand. And Jamie Sullins, the superstar director, Jamie Sullins, and one of my favorite people on this planet, asked me to come and share my story with you. A lot of you know my story. A lot of you. I am somebody that's completely transparent, open, shares anything you want. I don't care what people think. So here it is. If it helps, great. But Jamie knew me pretty much since I started Scentsy, almost. My first trip, that's where we met. And she understands. She understands. She's a good egg, as they say here. For those of you who don't know, my name is Patty Wonder. I am a director and I live in New Zealand. I do not speak like a New Zealander. I say water and not water. But I've been here for 13 and a half years. And so, you know, they've tolerated me and welcomed me in, so it's all good. And I'm here because of a cute guy that said, hey, to me online in 2006. This is Earl. This is Earl 2019, I would say, 2018 maybe. So that is Earl. That's my Earl. I met Earl online in January 2006. He said hi to me, and I said I was busy, because I was. And I said, I'm going out for a conference. I was with another direct sales company, and we were going out of town for our convention. I said, and I quick looked at his profile on Yahoo and went, he's cute. Oh, New Zealand. Fine. Yep, cool. And, and so I said, I'll contact you when I get back. And on Sunday night, and I got back, I contacted him, and he was like, whoa, you contacted me. I said, well, I said I would. And he's like, yeah, but a lot of people. I said, I am not a lot of people. I do what I say and I say what I mean. So that I should tell you right now is a precursor to this story. I am a very black and white person. I've learned to realize in the last year, and my best friends pointed out all the time going, Patty, it's not black and white. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. And I'm very logical. So I think when you go through things, you can either crumble and become a victim and completely be ruled by your emotions, which I think I kind of was up until about 4 years ago. And then life said, well, actually, you need to get your poop in a group and make this happen. I met Earl, like I said, online in January 2006. In June 2006, he came to America to meet me and my family. August 2006, I broke my lease, moved in with my grandparents for the month, and I landed in New Zealand the 1st of September 2006. So basically 9 months after he said hello, I landed in New Zealand. I knew Earl had diabetes. I could tell when he came to visit me when he didn't take his insulin, because he'd eat and then he'd all of a sudden get sleepy, like my dog that tried to stay awake. And I'd be like, did you shoot yourself? Because that's what I called it. Did you shoot yourself? And he'd be like, oh no. And I'm like, how do you forget? Let me tell you, girls, lust does crazy shit. It will make you overlook all the red flags. Lust is dangerous. Any of you youngins out there? Fast forward to 2009 when Earl had heart failure. Earl had been doing this thing for days, almost like a week. And I was like, oh my God, you're driving me crazy. And so he goes to the doctor and the doctor says it's asthma. And I'm like, it's not asthma. Your doctor's wrong. And he's like, well, you're not a doctor. And his legs started to enlarge. He started to hold weight in his legs. Earl was not a big guy. I mean, he's Maori. He's a Pacific Islander, so they're the biggest boned people on the planet. So yes, but he wasn't fat, if you will. And I went to bed, and at like 11 o'clock, he's like, babe, yeah? Can you take me to the hospital? Sure. He goes, could you hurry? Sure. So we get in the car. I didn't ask anything because he hated questions. It just drove him insane, and I could see he was internalizing. And on the way there, he's like, do you think you could drive faster? And I'm like, you don't have to tell me twice. I am born with a genetic disorder of lead in extra foot. Extra lead in the foot. Yep. My whole family, all the women have it. And so I get there, and sure enough, he's heart failure. He's in heart failure. So that was in 2009. In 2011, Earl Googles some symptoms he has that he's not sharing with anybody really. He makes another doctor's appointment, and the doctor does indeed confirm his kidneys. His kidney function is decreasing, and it has been for years, but nobody told him. Oh, and by the way, your eyes are failing because of your diabetes. Earl had type 2, by the way, type 2 diabetes. And he didn't take care of it. He played the game between insulin and food. So he was very mentally smart, and he could play the game. So he was very Rain Man. So he knew if he had his sugars at this point, he would eat all the crap he wanted to eat, but he would take his sugar level and then do the math and figure out how much insulin he needed to basically backtrack it so that he could play the game. So that was how Earl dealt with his diabetes. So now his eyes were failing because that's one of the first side effects from diabetes. He worked all the time. Like he had an amazing work ethic. And when he would come home from work, he would sit in his car and he would crank the music and he would crank the heat. And usually I could hear him in the driveway. But after an hour or two, Earl also fell asleep quickly. Wherever he was, that was the running joke. He would fall asleep when we went to friend's house. He would just be sitting on the couch and fall asleep. It became this running gag about where Earl would fall asleep. I wish that talent. I had that talent. I could sleep anywhere at any time. So this was 2011. And that was the year I started to think about his death. 2011. He would sit in his car, and after an hour or so, I would look out the window. Yeah, he's still there, but he wasn't moving. And so but he was sleeping. So I would take a deep breath and go, okay, this could be it. This could be the day. I did that every day with whatever. He had sleep apnea, and sometimes he wouldn't wear his mask, and sometimes you just go, hey, are you sleeping? What's going on there? Basically, it was just a prepping from 2011 to the end, to the beginning of 2019. Shortly after that, he started kidney dialysis, 9 hours a night. He was young enough and that they gave him a home machine so that he could dialyze 9 hours a night. We had to go through so many meetings and doctor's appointments and prep work and training to do all this stuff. I got fired from my job. I got fired from my job because I was like, I have to go. It started then in 2011 of, I gotta go, I have to take Earl to the hospital. I have to go, Earl's at the hospital. I have to go, I can't work this day because there's a meeting at the hospital for dialysis and kidney and nephrology and things like that. So they basically just got rid of me, which is hard to do here, but basically they just kind of kept getting rid of my days, if you will. 2015, I have a back operation. And 2 weeks later, I joined Scentsy. Because I think, oh, they need this here in New Zealand. They don't have anything like this. Oh my God, this is great. Earl hates candles and his balance wasn't great. So he just didn't trust the flame thing. And so I started Scentsy. When I had gotten fired from that other job, I did find another job. This job I hated. They were bullies. It was catty. And I loved the job. I hated the place that I worked and the people, most of them, that I worked with. And thankfully, I hurt my back. So my goal, when I kind of saw within like a couple of days what had happened when I started Scentsy, was I don't ever want to go back to work again. I don't ever want to go back to work again. 2 months later, I have another back surgery. And the following month, I earned my first trip with Scentsy, a cruise to Cozumel, Mexico, which is where I met Jamie. Now, that cruise took place in January, so my goal was I'm going to be a director. I'd like to be a director when I step on the ship. So as long as I hit those numbers before I step on the ship, I'm good. 4 months later, so basically 7 months after I started, I debuted as a director and passed my full-time pay. Earl noticed it. I don't notice numbers. I like prizes and charms and trips, and he noticed because he would go into workstation. He also was my delivery dude. I never went back to work. I've never worked another job ever since. I knew that if I worked my patootie off the first year of my business, I'd create a great foundation. I believe in temporary sacrifice for long-term gain. And I knew that going in, just do what you can. You do not. The thought of working for somebody else makes me want to vomit. That's how much. I remember Earl at one point going, maybe you should get a part-time job, babe. And I was like, how much do you want me to have extra a week? And he goes, $100. I'm like, well, Jesus, I'll just book another party. Because that's easy. I can do that. And I can do it in my own time. And the next day he came to me, he's like, yeah, I thought about what you said. Just do that. Book another party. He goes, because when you work for somebody else, all you do is cry and you're miserable. And it will affect your business that you've built. So don't do that. Just keep doing what you're doing. Even if he had to do extra, he knew that my heart and my soul and my joy and everything about me would change if I had to go work for somebody else again. That's how much I hate being an employee. And some people don't get that, but some of you will. Literally makes me nauseous thinking about applying for and working when someone tells me to work. Yeah, anyway, that's a whole different life. Now, I had a new goal because I reached that first goal. So my new goal, make enough money to support me, myself, in case today's the day that Earl dies. I knew he would at some point. It was inevitable because it's logical and I'm very black and white. I didn't want to be a 45, 46, 47-year-old person with a roommate. Nobody wants to live with me. I will tell you right now, nobody wants to live with me, except for maybe a gay man. That could work, but women, probably not. Unless you can take Petty Wonder. And Petty Wonder's a lot to take to live with. I didn't want that. And it's very expensive here in New Zealand. Very expensive. And so my goal was to make enough money to be independent, to not need anybody else to help me or have to move in with anybody or anything like that. 2017 are full of doctor's appointments, setting up the diet. At this point, we lived in a huge house. Upstairs, downstairs, and it had log burners are really popular here in New Zealand, which I hate them. It's like, hello, Little House on the Prairie. It's 2017. Let's get with the program. So, sorry, Kiwis. But it's true. It's a lot of work. It's buying wood, chopping wood, storing wood, hauling wood. It's constant. So I was setting up the dialysis machine because Earl was still working. I was cooking. I was cooking, and then he would complain about what I ate because he was sick, so he wasn't hungry all the time, and then he didn't have those same taste buds, and lots of things went with that. Cleaning, getting wood for the fire. I was exhausted and would cry almost every day due to my own pain. I had 2 back operations, but what I didn't tell you is that I have fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. So I'm also don't handle change well, like in the way of sporadic, we have to go right now, because in my head I have to finish whatever I start. So living with somebody that your life can change on a dime, drop everything you're doing. I became really good at, when things happened, I always had a bag next to me, and it would have my Scentsy work in it. It would have a catalog. It would have a notebook. It would have essentials, which I considered essentials. And it would have samples, and it would have possibility packs in it. It was the go bag. If you've ever watched Criminal Minds, they always talk about a go bag. Earl had a go bag. I knew that when we headed to the hospital, there were a couple things I had to grab because I knew the questions every single time we went to the emergency room and every single time the doctors came in. Some of those doctors, I'm like, can you just read the folder? Because you're asking him when he peed last, and when you have kidney failure, you don't pee anymore. He hadn't peed in like 2 years. So that was one of those things that sticks out in my brain. But I'd be sitting washing the floor. I'd be sitting there in tears, and Earl would be like, babe, do you think we should get somebody to help just to wash the floors and to do the deep cleaning stuff? And I was like, and I would just sit there and cry. And he would cry because he felt helpless, and I was just exhausted. My friend Christina used to kind of be there for me, and well, she's still there for me, but she knows what I went through when people think I haven't gone through anything. And the other thing that happens is because I don't have kids, because I made that choice, people think I have all the time in the world and I'm available 24/7 and my life is rainbows and unicorns. Please stop assuming things about single people. I volunteer for the elderly, and I have a gentleman at home that basically needs a lot of help. Okay? Earl worked for as long as he could, but he could barely walk from the driveway into the house without being winded. I worked consistently, almost in a desperation, but more like a stealth focus. I saw him dying before my eyes. He would walk into a room, and instead of going, yay, my man's home, I would do, it says I have a poor connection, so it will record, so just stick with me. I saw him, I basically did a body scan every time he walked in the room. Was there something different? Was there a mark somewhere? Was there, what's that? You didn't have that yesterday. Are you okay? Oh, your leg's bigger. Are you retaining fluid? Are you not taking enough liquid off at night or fluid out at night with your machine? Do you need to see the doctor? All these things all the time. We had different appointments at different times, ambulance calls. Christmas Day, we were sitting at someone's house. I ended up having to call the ambulance because he just tapped me and said, babe, call the ambulance. And I'm like, okay. And that's kind of my mood. Okay. Because it became very routine. Like, okay, here we go again. Emergency rooms, middle of the night sugar lows. He would bang on the wall or yell because he couldn't move. So I had to come and try to put orange juice and sugar into his system so that he could move and talk. He had side effects of medication, which include bleeding from the nose, wetting the bed, all the things you can imagine. And then the dialysis machine alarms that would just go off if there was a kink in the cord or something like that. I am somebody that needs 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night, or else my fibro pain is off the chart and everything goes wrong. Like I just want to sleep. I just need to sleep. And so there were so many times where I didn't get to sleep. But because I worked for myself, we could come home from the hospital and we could both sleep. 2008, I would say was 90% hospital and emergency room living. Home dialysis was no longer doing enough. We went from peritoneal dialysis, which was through the stomach. We went to hemodialysis, which was through your veins in your arm, and they can control how much fluid and the cleansing of the blood would take place. So we would have to do that 3 times a week, and he had to do it at the hospital. In the process of all of this, and this started happening probably early on, probably 2016, he started noticing he couldn't feel a lot on his feet. And he was scared. I'd get up in the morning and he'd went to work, and I'd get up and it looked like a CSI crime scene in the house. And I'd be like, what the hell? There was blood everywhere. And I could tell exactly where he walked in the house. And I'd call him at work and say, babe, your foot's bleeding. And he'd be like, no, it's not. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is, because I'm looking at blood all over the house, in the carpet, everywhere, everywhere. So again, more cleaning, more on my hands and knees. So in 2018, November 2018, his legs had started to rot and turn black, and his fingers started to, actually. In November 2018, he had a double leg amputation. He had both of his legs amputated from basically right above the knee, kind of right at the knee. After that, he went to a hospice. And I have to tell you, I remember the last time he could stand up and hold me and give me a hug. And that was a couple months before this happened. And I'll never forget it. And I started to mourn his hugs even before he was gone. And after they said, we were going to put you in hospice to recover from his double leg amputation, I had this look on my face. I can't control my look sometimes. I'm sorry. I just can't. But he looked at me and went, oh my God, you're excited that I'm going to a new location so you can talk to them about Scentsy. And I went, because I am an introvert, and every appointment he had, I was like, where is it? Have I been there? Those are all new people I haven't talked to. I haven't given a sample to. I haven't Scentsy-ized. And he knew the look, because as soon as they said, we're going to put you at Nurse Maud, I went, oh, that's a lot of nurses. That went off. It wasn't, hey, my boyfriend is going to hospice because he's not well. It was, ooh, a new pool of people. Because that is me. That's all I have to say. There was a time when, yeah, anyway, I could go on. There's a couple stories like that where I'm just like, Earl just looks at me like, for the love. No, in December 22nd, 2018, Earl passed away. I was scared. I was really scared. Could I do this by myself? Could I survive on my own? Please, God, don't make me have to go to get another job. Oh, God, who do I want to live with that doesn't have kids? Those of you that know me, I was like, oh, crap. I'm like, oh, shit. But thanks to the work that I put in from 2016, the day I joined, I booked 8 parties and I recruited my first person. And I did about 2 to 4 parties a week for about 2 years. Because I wanted the 2000 charm. Again, it wasn't the money, it was the charm. Earl used to say, who cares about the charm? Don't you want to see what your paycheck is? I said, babe, if I'm not getting the charms, the money ain't coming. Like, I work for prizes and the money is just a side effect. Where some people look at the prizes as the side effect, I look at the money as the side effect. If you just earn all the things, if you earn all the incentives, if you earn all the charms, the money comes. It's fine. So it depends how you look at things. I had, after Earl passed away, I was afraid. I moved here by myself for him, and I worried that I'm never lonely. Like, I'm not that person. I'm an only child, so I'm not lonely, but I always felt alone. And I was afraid of that when he passed, like, wow, I really am alone. Like, the first thing I said to him when I saw him and he had passed, and I just went, you just fucking left me here. You left me here. All alone in New Zealand. No family, nothing. You just left me here. So I was pissed at first. Not surprised, but pissed, you know? So, but what happened is something why I feel so strongly about Scentsy. I keep saying to people, I don't need Scentsy products. If I never bought a Scentsy product again, it's fine. I don't care. There's other stuff. But the company Scentsy and what Heidi and Orville have created, that is why I stay. That is why I don't even entertain the idea. I have worked for other direct sales companies, several. I have tried other ones. I am Scentsy for life. The amount of support and friendship and love that I have gotten from Scentsy, and was blatantly clear after Earl died, that's what made me cry. And it's still making me emotional. I had people all over the world that didn't know me sending money on PayPal and helping me and supporting me and sending me money. For the first time, I haven't felt alone since. I felt alone a lot before Scentsy. I've never felt alone ever again. And that took me coming out of my comfort zone, me reaching out to other people outside of our group, me learning, me watching YouTube videos, me attending every event. It's not an option. If this is your job, you attend things. I take things off a year in advance. I took things off all the time. I figured out Care for Earl when I had to go away. He couldn't go on at most of the trips. And I remember thinking, oh, I wish he'd go on this trip. And then when we were on the trip, I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad he didn't come. He wouldn't have been able to handle the walking. When did the airport, here's a squirrel. Remember when you were let off in the airport? Now you have to like get off on the tarmac, then walk into the terminal, and then walk 100 miles to get into the airport, really into the airport, and then you still have to walk to get your luggage. What the hell? Anyway, I digress. But that's just another thing. But when you're on these things, you think of things like that, like, when did that happen? So after about 5 or 6 months, I realized I did it. I was doing it. I was living on my own. I was paying all my bills. And I had money left over. I was going to be okay. I was supporting myself with my Scentsy income. I had earned a trip for 2 so that I could take Chloe, Earl's daughter. I call her Beastie because Maleficent, the movie Maleficent, is very much us. I could take Beastie on a trip. She's had a rough year. And I remember telling her, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford to pay for everything or buy lots of things, but Scentsy pays for this part of the trip, but we're going to extend and stay with a friend. But so that point of time, you might need to save up some money. And she's like, okay. I went on that trip, and she was like a deer in headlights. She's never been treated so well. She's never stayed in a posh hotel. She's never seen a poolside, a pool hotel, like a pool by the hotel. Unlimited buffet. She's never seen that. It was a joy to treat her to these things because I was part of Scentsy. And when she got on the plane to go home, she lives in the North Island. I live in the South Island. I looked at my bank account and I just cried. She didn't pay for anything that trip. Nothing. If she wanted shoes or clothes and we went shopping, she paid for that. There wasn't anything I said no to. I even paid $40 for a stupid digital photo package, which had like 4 photos in it, because that's what she wanted. And I sat at the airport and I just cried because I still had a couple $1,000s left in my account. And I had given her everything she wanted during that trip. We didn't budget really for anything. We went out to eat whenever we wanted to. We bought what we wanted to. I never had to say, no, can't afford it. That was a huge moment for me. Huge moment for me. And the more I can treat her to things, she deserves it. And she lost her dad and she watched him die. And she had to say goodbye to him 3 times when she went back home, thinking it was the last time she said goodbye. Trust me, she deserves it. So I just wanted to kind of bring it back around with some little tips that I wrote down about my story. And I've earned every single incentive. Every single one of them. Usually for 2. When it was leadership, obviously I'd earn for 1. Because of Scentsy, I could work from hospitals, hospices, my car, buses. I had to go into town so much, and I live 40 kilometers, 40 minutes, I'm just going to say, outside of Christchurch at the moment, and it became really expensive. So I ended up taking public transportation, which I hate public transportation, but anyway, I did it for him. And I could easily do my job and not have to worry about calling in sick because of my own pain, worrying about losing my job or being talked to or written up. Earl used to get sick of talking about Scentsy, so he made a rule in the house that everybody always laughs at. When he came home from 6:30 to 8:30, I wasn't allowed to say Scentsy. Because he said, how's your day? And I go, Scentsy, 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 Scentsy. And so from 6:30 to 8:30, it was Earl time. So I had to try to take my ADHD brain and focus on Earl. At 8:30 p.m., when Earl hooked himself up to his dialysis machine, I went into my office and I worked. Instead of putting down my kit and crying and saying, oh, woe is me, and oh my God, what am I gonna do? And oh my God. I said, right, make a plan. You need to do something. Do not, when you are sad, when you are broken, one of the biggest crazy things that I always think I see now, and I just want to slap them across the face, is young people that start Scentsy when they're dating somebody, and then when they break up, they're so distraught that they stop doing Scentsy. And I'm like, girl, don't you want to do Scentsy? Pick your damn kid up, earn a trip, and wave in your picture so he knows you don't need him. What the hell are you thinking? So that's one of my biggest things that I see. Stop putting down your kit when you should be picking it up. I made sure I had samples, possibility packs, and a warmer wherever Earl stayed. Every hospital room, even his bed, because they wheeled him places, we put a car bar on it. His room had a warmer and a sample container with drawing slips for any nurses or guests that came to see him. You can do anything. And nurses and teachers, y'all know, half of you in here are one of the other. The other thing, I want you to look at Scentsy as not as work, but as an escape. And there's some people that get this. There's somebody, Annette was on here. And when Annette's like in a weird place because of her job or her negative support, she's just like, tonight I get to just sit in my purple bubble. Stop looking at Scentsy at work. If you're looking at Scentsy as work, you're not seeing what's possible. You're not understanding the power that you have to affect other lives in a positive way. Scentsy allows you to escape, to take the focus off yourself and your problems and to shelf them for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Because you're focusing on other people and how to make them smile and how to build them up and how to recognize them. So take that stuff and just put it on the shelf. You can come back after a party, you can get back in your car and cry. But for a couple hours, focus on other people and how to make their lives better by sharing what you have. Scentsy is a great vehicle and a great tool. It evokes memories, but it evokes communication and laughter and laughing so hard you snort and revolting sounds if they hate the smell. How can you affect someone positively? Remove yourself from what you think it should be. I tell my team all the time, make somebody smile today. Say thank you. Give somebody a compliment and a sample. All these people that have been working through the pandemic, give them a foot soak sample and say, oh my God, thank you so much for standing here all day and doing such an amazing job. Here's a little treat for you. Go home and soak your feet tonight. And just I appreciate you. Something. Of course it's going to benefit you, but you're going to make their day. And I tell you what, the more you make other people laugh and smile, the better you feel. And the easier it is to handle the crap life throws at you. The week Earl died, I had 3 parties. My hosts knew, and I made a commitment. I did those parties. It was great. We kind of altered them a little bit because they were all like past hosts. So it was kind of like hanging out with friends. And everybody just took their cue from me. And I just wanted to laugh and hang out with them and focus on them. We ate, we talked, we laughed. I probably cried a little. I got lots of hugs. Got gifts. I will never forget those parties. It was nice to just hang out and talk about Scentsy together. The day of Earl's funeral, his funeral I think was at 9 or 10 a.m. I had a home party that afternoon. So I went to the funeral, went to somebody's house to have some food and sit around and talk. And then I said, I gotta go. I have a Scentsy party. And they all just looked at me like, what? And they go, of course you do. I'm like, well, I made a commitment. And my cat still needs to eat. And I still need to eat. And I still need electricity. And I still need a place to live. And I still need food in my stomach. So off I go. I will never forget that host and her friends. I was so, so grateful. She knew. Everybody kind of knew. She allowed me to escape that day. And I will never forget that day. Ever. And after the party was over, I got in my truck, picked up a friend, and we went to a memorial service because Earl was a musician. So there was musicians playing in his honor that night. The other thing I have to say is Earl would have been pissed if I would have canceled that party. And I knew that as well. Earl knew my dreams, my goals. He knew what I wanted for myself. He knew, he always called me the unstoppable force of Patty Wonder. He knew. He would have been pissed off if I would have canceled that party. The thing about life is death is a part of it. And the thing about life is that it still happens and life goes on no matter what happens. Everything still goes on. You kind of feel like your life is like, well, don't they all know that my man died? The whole reason why I moved here, he died. Doesn't the world know? Doesn't the world stop? No, it doesn't. McDonald's still drive-through is still busy. There's still cars all over the road. Life continues, and I still owed it to my team to be present. I owed it to my hosts to honor my commitments, to be a person of my word. And I owed it to myself and my goals and my future to keep going, to keep doing the things. Did I kind of take a little time? Of course I took a little time. I still went on the trip to Cancun. Somebody's like, are you still going on the trip? I'm like, hell yes, I'm still going on the trip. Jeez, yeah. And I remember when Earl had his legs amputated and he came out of that, I remember saying, my trip is in January. Don't you be screwing up my trip. They better put you on ice if you die while I'm gone. And it was my humor. I have dark humor. Well, he died before Christmas, so I could still go on my trip. And I don't remember a lot of that trip. I was in a fog. I remember it took me 4 hours to get from the beginning of reception when I walked in the building to the other side, because instead of everybody going, Patty, everybody went, Patty, and gave me a hug and crying. Like, it took me 4 hours to get through all the love, all the support, all the hugs, all the gifts, all the Scentsy family. I was exhausted, but I was so grateful. That is what I try, and I wish I could get through to people about Scentsy. No one would have hired me from 2016 to 2019. I would have gotten fired over and over and over again. Because I was the only person kind of that Earl had that knew everything. And he didn't want to tell people. So it was kind of like my burden with him. If I wouldn't have been doing Scentsy, I would have been in a very, very unpleasant situation when he died. Really think about that. If I hadn't done the work, wow, I would have been broke, unhappy, probably living with somebody, which is never good, and just wanting to go home. And I have a pet that I can't go home with. So, keep your why strong. If you think, when someone says, why are you doing Scentsy? Why do you want to be a director? If you don't feel it, so hard that it would make you want to vomit if you don't achieve it, you haven't tapped into your why yet. It shouldn't just be an off-the-cuff remark. It should invoke so much feeling and passion inside of you that there is nothing that can stand in your way. Not even fear of rejection. because you are so focused on getting to that place. Do not assume that people that are going through things don't need Scentsy, or you don't want to bother them right now with Scentsy. If you haven't heard Denise's story, hear Denise's story. So many people find themselves in Scentsy, and so many people use Scentsy as a way to fill their life with positivity and goodness and kindness and love. And it's so hard to explain when you haven't tapped into everything, if you haven't submersed yourself in it. I can honestly say that Scentsy not only saved my sanity numerous times, over and over and over and over again. Scentsy is what has kept me sane and has given me direction and has given me, everybody knows I hate the word hope, but it has given me something to focus on that will lead somewhere great. When life is showing you all the shit, Scentsy, if you stay on the path, literally is tulips. That's the best way to describe it in my brain. It has provided me free trips. I actually earned a trip for 2 to the Great Barrier Reef, and I didn't take anybody. Apparently I got talked about on that trip. I don't know. I don't really pay attention. Somebody told me later. I earned a trip for 2 and didn't take anybody. Why? Because I knew I'd be on basically this amazing resort. And when you earn a trip for 2 and you don't take a guest, you still get the room to yourself. I was exhausted. I felt like nobody understood. Nobody appreciated me. And I just was like, I just need to get away. And I went there and I stayed by myself in this humongous room with palm trees and the Great Barrier Reef. And it was magnificent because I needed that time. It was a retreat. It was a place for me to refill my cup so I could be a better girlfriend, so I could be a better leader. There was one day I didn't leave my room. The whole day I read the Khloe Kardashian book, ordered room service, and watched CSI because I bring DVDs with me wherever I go. And then I got dressed for dinner and went down for dinner with everybody else. I will never forget it. Some people remember of course I went scuba diving and I'll never forget that either. But I remember needing that trip. One thing I've learned about Scentsy trips is by the time you go on them, you freaking need them. Let me just say that. I wish for all of you that if you haven't figured this out yet, I wish for all of you, I take the word hope as a cop-out, except for if it's a health thing. You can have hope if you're going through bad health. Keep in the hope. But hope is not a business plan, and hope is allowing yourself to fail. That's how I look at hope. I give you permission. I encourage you to really put yourself out there, to really share your story, to really sometimes put your emotion on the shelf and figure out how you can concentrate on making somebody else's day better. Don't dismiss yourself, but just for a little while. Okay? This business is amazing. and I wouldn't have been able to do everything that I did and be there for Earl as much as I was if it wasn't for Scentsy. So that is my story. Let me just go back over questions if any of you have any. I did it without crying, everybody. Oh, thank you, Aubrey. Denise, I love you. You definitely need to share your story if people haven't heard it. I do, and I have a geographical tongue, Pam. So I have a geographical tongue. My cousin has one, and my grandma had one. And so whenever I have too much citrus or basically citric acid or even sweets sometimes, my tongue gets wavy, but my tongue is completely cracked. When I was little, I shouldn't say little, when I was younger, my early teens, when I was babysitting, I would use it to scare kids. And I would tell them I cut it with razor blades. Yep, I was always a deranged child. So yeah, that's my tongue. So your ice cream cones are smooth. Mine have stripes. So yeah, definitely. And I love pineapple. So that's a problem. Or if I have too many oranges, or yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. But thank you, Pam. Thank you for looking out for me. Aw. Thanks, Aubrey. Oh, well, I am type A. I'm very type A. I'm ADHD. And I'm not a chilled person for the most part. I know how to relax, absolutely. But I'm not like a cruisy person. No. So, but yeah, it's my cousin Nathan has it, who some of you have met and enjoyed. And my grandma had it too. So, all right, if that's it, that is me. And thank you for everybody for tuning in. And please rethink about who you offer the opportunity to, because somebody could be there like me that could really use something positive in their crappy life. So there you go. Maybe. Boy, me on one side and him on the other. Pam, you're going to go crazy. All right. Good night. Good night, everybody in Region 1 and everybody in Region 3. Have an amazing weekend. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.